Hello and welcome to CNN News. Today we will be discussing important court cases. The first one we have today is Plessy versus Ferguson. This 1896 U.S. Supreme Court case upheld the constitutionality of segregation under the separate but equal doctrine. It stemmed from an 1892 incident in which African-American train passenger Homer Plessy refused to sit in a Jim Crow car, breaking a Louisiana law. Rejecting Plessy's argument that his constitutional rights were violated, the court ruled that a state law implies merely a legal distinction between whites and blacks did not conflict with the 13th and 14th Amendments. Restrictive legislation based on a race continued following the Plessy decision. Its reasoning not overturned until Brown v. Board of Education in Topeka in 1954, which leads to our next court case. Brown v. Board of Education. The case from Louisiana, which in 1890 adopted a law providing for equal but separate accommodations for white and colored races on its railroads. In 1892, passenger Homer Plessy refused to sit in a Jim Crow car. He was brought before Judge John H. Ferguson of the Criminal Court for New Orleans, who upheld the state law. The law was challenged in the Supreme Court on grounds that it conflicted with the 13th and 14th Amendments. Our next court case we have is the Regents of University of California versus Bake, I think it is. Bake. Anyways, a white man, named Allen, twice applied for admission to the University of California Medical School at Davis and was rejected both times. His college GPA and test scores exceeded everyone else's that were admitted in the past 2 years. First in California courts he contended and then Supreme Courts. He was excluded from admission solely on the basis that he was solely excluded from admission based on his race. It limits all men are equal in the 14th Amendment. And now,
the next court case is Dred Scott versus United States. In March 1857, in one of the most controversial events preceding the American Civil War, the U.S. Supreme Court issued its decision in the court of Dred Scott versus Sanford. The case had been brought before the court by Dred Scott, a slave who had lived with his owner in a free state before returning to the slave state of Missouri. Scott argued that his time spent in these locations entitled him to emancipation. In his decision, Chief Justice Roger B. Taney, a stunted supporter of slavery, disagreed. The court found that no black free or slave could claim U.S. citizenship, and therefore blacks were unable to petition the court for their freedom. The next court case is Loving versus Virginia. The decision holds that state laws prohibiting interracial marriage are unconstitutional. The court rejected the state's argument that the statute was legitimate because it applied equally to both blacks and whites and found that racial classification were not subject to a national purpose test under the 14th Amendment. The Supreme Court upheld constitutionally of state laws requiring racial segregation in private businesses, such as railroads, under the doctrine of separate but equal. Virginia's statutory scheme to prevent marriages between persons solely on the basis of racial classifications held to violate the equal protection due to clauses of the 14th Amendment.
in this picture you can see that it is separate but not equal, and that was what the Jim Crow were supposed to do, kind of, was to create a separate environment for white and colored people and to make them equal, but they were not. to a protester and he is against he's saying that if he wins against the Supreme Court, then they're going to lose employment, education, and housing because he was a white man denied of privileges.
This is Gerald.
Here you can see that a white lady is swimming with a colored child, and they're outside of the school, and it's just saying that everything is equal